Yo, it's Low. Welcome to Beating the Backlog, the series where I review the games that I am clearing out of my massive backlog. You know what it is. Today we're looking at Clustertruck, which is a game that I played on PC. Clustertruck is a platforming indie game developed by Landfall Games, who are based in Sweden. Released in September 2016, it features some chaotic platforming gameplay involving many recklessly driving trucks, which is where the name of the game, Clustertruck, comes from. There are 90 levels in the game, there's 10 per world. Each world has its own themes and gimmicks and art styles, and you play in the first person perspective and you have to reach the end of the level without touching the ground or anything that isn't a truck. The game doesn't really explain this, but it's one of those games where it's so simple, you just hop in, play it, and you can pick up what you're supposed to do pretty quickly. And at the end of a level, the game will score you based on how fast you beat the level, or if you do any tricks, and all that kind of stuff. And as if this wasn't enough for just a really solid game, it goes the extra mile and includes an ability system. So the points you get at the end of the level, you can use those to buy abilities that can be equipped to assist your gameplay. So there's a bunch of different gadgets and abilities you can have, and this one feature alone just really adds a bunch of replay value to the game, as if there wasn't already a lot of replay value. Because you can just try out a bunch of different combos of abilities and find ones that you like and suit your gameplay style more. Me personally, I had a lot of fun using the grappling hook and the time slowing, I don't know what you call it, the time slower thing. I found that one to be pretty useful. That's pretty much it describing the gameplay. It's pretty much the same thing through all 90 levels. There's gimmicks within each world, but they're mostly contained just within the world. The biggest switch up this game has is probably the final level, which plays like a boss fight. And we're gonna have to stop for a second, and I'm gonna need to vent because this fucking final fight. Towards the end of the game, there's just already some annoying levels. Like you feel like it feels more luck based than skill based, which the game is for the most part skill based. So these last few levels just aren't very fun, but you can kind of look past them because, you know, Clustertruck's just such a fun game. But this final boss, it's just not good at all. You have this spiraling ascent which is repeated several times in the fight, followed by this sequence where you scale the boss's arm. And you scale the arm and the body using trucks that are placed on it, which is pretty annoying considering the positioning of the trucks is just weird because the boss's body is really blocky, and if you even barely touch anywhere on the boss's body, you die and you have to restart the whole thing. Okay, so you reach the top and then you hit the boss's weak point, and you reset, you go back down, you land on some trucks, and you go back up the ascent with some additional obstacles like lasers and shit. It's just such a repetitive, unfair fight, and it's just one of the most aggravating things I believe I've ever played in a game. That's an exaggeration, but most aggravating thing I've played in a while. I ended up having to glitch the game, and I killed the boss in one hit by throwing a portable truck on the weak point. For some reason that ended the fight instantly, but I'm not really complaining. So yeah, that's pretty big blemish on this game, but other than that, I really have nothing but positive things to say. The art style and the graphics are nice and simple, which I personally enjoy. Reminded me of another game called Refunked that I played recently that also had very simple visuals, but they were really effective. The sound design is straightforward and it's fun, and the soundtrack is pretty standard indie platformer stuff. It reminded me a bit of Super Meat Boy with some of the more intense guitar-driven tracks on here, but for the most part, it's just pretty basic. So overall, I did actually enjoy Clustertruck. It's a very simple premise with a surprising amount of depth and mastery to be discovered. I really haven't had this much fun with such a simple game since probably Portal. I would love to give this game an 8 or a 9 out of 10 even, but just some of this later level design on this game, combined with the absolutely horrible final boss, just bogs the game down for me. So my final score is probably just going to be a 7 out of 10. And that's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for watching. What do you think of the game? If you've played it, leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you all next time on Beating the Backlog.